Welcome to the Quantum Guide Show, where you will find interesting guests and discussions about cutting-edge topics to assist you on your journey. The Quantum Guide Show is ideally suited to the newly awakened and for those who feel isolated by their newfound beliefs. The mind, body, and spirit thrive when we have a mission, and there is no greater mission than to become the change that we wish to see in the world. So hit the like button, subscribe to my YouTube, Odyssey, and Telegram channels, and share this show with your friends. Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. Today in episode 99, I'm happy to bring back my returning guest, Ryder Lee. Ryder is a truth seeker, knowledge guardian, and spiritual educator. He uses his real-world experiences to educate and elevate others to awaken, question their reality, expand their consciousness, and raise their vibration. Check out Ryder's channel called Raised by Giants, now available on Rockfin and YouTube, where he interviews people from all backgrounds about their spiritual awakening. This brings together people from many different perspectives who share what's going on in the world from individual and collective perspectives. His guests share insights, knowledge, wisdom, and awareness from their personal experiences. Check out his links in the description box below this video. Today, Ryder is presenting some important information from his video, which was called Psychic SPIES Truth, and some thoughts about current events, which have shocked many ET perspectives. Ryder, welcome to the Quantum Guide Show. How you doing today?
Hello, Karen. Thanks so much for inviting me back on. I appreciate you a lot. I'm ready to dig deep into these topics. And also, I wanted to just give you a shout out really quick, Karen, because you were one of the first people that came on my show back almost 3 years ago. And I just wanted to give you the recognition for that and to thank you for doing that whenever I reached out to you. And you were like, no problem, I'm coming on. So I really appreciate that. And I'm a little disappointed that I'm the 99th. Why couldn't I have been the 100th one? Karen, why can't I have been the 100th episode? I'm just playing.
I know you're just, I got to tell you, I really appreciate you too, Ryder, because you've not only inspired me as a friend and and also with your content. But for those of you who don't know, Ryder sent me my microphone and my camera to help me improve my show. And he didn't ask anything in return. I ended up sending him a couple of orgone generators just because I love him so much and wanted him to have them. But he didn't ask for anything. He's such a good soul. You're such a good soul, Ryder. Anything I can do for you, I definitely would. So yeah.
Thank you. I love those orgone generators. They're at my apartment. I'm gonna go get them here pretty soon, probably sometime in the spring, and I'll have them set back up on this desk. But yeah, those were really beautiful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. So I guess we're going to start off today with Psychic SPIES Truth, and maybe you could explain to our viewers, what does that mean, and what's that all about?
Well, where this really started with me, Karen, was my channel's evolved over the past 3 years. I've switched things up. I've interviewed different kinds of people. In the beginning, I was kind of all ears for anything. I was like, okay, well, everything's a possibility, bring them on, try and figure it out. And that's what I did, and the more that I started diving into the secret space program and the super soldiers and the people that claim to have fought aliens in space for 20 years, and then they're magically age regress back to the very point that they were taken. And with all this highly advanced technology, taking out reptilian bases on the moon and reptilian bases on Mars and living on Mars and cyborgs and clones and all this, the more that I started digging into that, I'm like, none of this matches up with reality. None of it makes any sense, you know? And then I'm like, okay, well, let me dig into some of the, is there anything about what they're talking about? Is any of it true? That was basically my question, right? I'm like, okay, well, let me dissect everything that they're talking about, right? And their story kind of goes is that it starts out with a MK Ultra process, right? They're abducted by a three-letter organization or the military. They're taken to some kind of base. Some people say that it's a military base. Some people think that it's a underground base, so on and so forth, or whatever. And then they're MK Ultra, their mind fractured, their consciousness is split. They've created these altars, and then immediately after that, they're taken to a jump room in New York or California directly to Mars to live for 20 years and fight aliens and do all this extravagant stuff in space with spaceships and highly advanced technology and interdimensional travel. And then after that 20 years, their age regressed back in time to the very point that they were taken as a child. And I'm like, okay, well, what can we prove out of any of these people's stories? Because there's a lot of these people, right? There's a lot of people that's in this community that claim to be a part of these kinds of programs, right? So I'm like doing the research. I'm like, what's verifiable here? You know, what can we verify? What can we actually put down on paper that's truthful, right? Because I had doubts about the entire thing from the very beginning. Now, I did interview these people, but I had to interview these people in order to figure out what's going on, right? So I'm like, okay, well, we can verify the MK Ultra programs, right? Those are verifiable. Those really happened. The CIA were actually doing MK Ultra experiments, right? There's declassified documents on MK Ultra, 100% legit. But whenever you look at the breakdown of all of those sub projects, which there is 149 declassified MK Ultra sub projects that you can read through, right? It gives you a better idea of what's going on. And if you read through all those documents, you'll see that almost every single one of these documents involves some form of LSD, some sort of hallucinant involved with them. And then you get into the process of MK Ultra, and they do this thing that's called depatterning, where they remove normal thought patterns, critical thinking, and common sense from your brain to basically wipe the slate clean, right? And then they do another technique that's called psychic driving, which psychic driving is like a programming, right? They can essentially, after they've wiped your mind completely and removed normal patterns of thinking, they can put in a programming, right? They can program you to believe whatever it is they want you to believe, right? And that's done through the official form of it is done with a repeated audio message, right? So they'll take a tape recorder in and they'll just play that looped audio message 24/7 for weeks or months or hours or however long for periods of time, right? To program the person that's getting MK Ultra with the thing that's on the audio message, right? And anything can be on that audio message. Then there's other ways of doing it too. You can do the same thing with a TV, right? You can wheel a TV in there, and once you've depatterned them, they're going to believe whatever is on that message, whatever's on that audio looped message, or whatever's on that TV screen. And they can also do it with goggles. They can put something over your face, like kind of like what we're seeing right now with VR technology with the Oculus and all that, where you put like a thing over your eyes and it's kind of like a virtual reality thing. They can do that as well and have these people believe that they lived out an entire 20 years doing whatever it is that they were doing in space, fighting aliens, and then that they were age regressed back in time. But it's really an MK Ultra technique. So then I evolved from there, and I'm like, okay, well, okay, we can verify the MK Ultra technique, and I think that the MK Ultra is the main cause of a lot of these SSP and super soldier whistleblowers thinking that they really experienced this kind of phenomenon is due to the MK Ultra, right? It's due to the programming of the MK Ultra that's convincing them that they went to space and fought aliens for 20 years in their physical body when they really never left the planet. And it was a psychic driving technique done through audio looped message, a video screen, or some kind of VR simulation. And then they also talked about, because a lot of them claim that whenever they come back from their service, whenever they come back from their 20 years fighting aliens in space, they come back with some kind of abilities, right? They claim that they come back with remote viewing abilities, psychic abilities, telekinesis, ESP abilities, right? Basically, all of them claim that. They all kind of claim to have some sort of ESP ability. A lot of them, it's remote viewing. And they all talk about this Stargate project, right? And that it was about this, about a portal opening up and like interdimensional travel, and how they would, the government would have them, going through stargates and opening portals and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, so then I started researching the Stargate project, right? And it turns out that the Stargate project is a real project, but it's nothing like what they claim it to be, right? The government actually were studying psychics, ESP, and remote viewing and channeling abilities. The funding started for that in 1972. The CIA was directly funding SRI, which is Stanford Research Institute, to study psychic abilities, ESP, and remote viewing. And later on, the Army Intelligence opened up their own division in 1975. Then it became an official special access program of the DIA in 1979. And they were using psychics and remote viewers and extrasensory perception abilities to collect intelligence data, to gather intelligence during the Cold War and spy on other countries, possibly our country, our own government, and other militaries across the world, during that Cold War time period. And also the MK Ultra programs, there were 4 separate sub projects of MK Ultra that Sidney Gottlieb was specifically studying this phenomenon too. There are at least four of them that were directly centered around studying ESP abilities, psychic abilities, and extrasensory perception. So it all connects to the CIA. The CIA was already interested in this work in the early 50s. And then they were directly funding SRI, which is Stanford Research Institute, in 1972. They were directly funneling money from the CIA through Sidney Gottlieb to SRI to study this phenomenon. And then the Army Intelligence opened up their own branch in 1975 to study the exact same phenomenon. And then it got transferred to a DIA project and made a special access program officially in 1979. And then it was supposed to be given back to the CIA in 1995. But when the CIA was supposed to take it, they just ended up shutting it down and saying that no valuable intelligence data was ever collected from the special access program, and shut it down. Now, there's a bunch of theories as to why they would shut it down. I mean, why would any branch of the military or government keep something running for almost 20 years to just shut it down and say no intelligence data was, no verifiable intelligence data was ever collected from the SAP program, it's not going to happen, right? And my thoughts and theories is that it evolved. It evolved into something different. So I started interviewing all of the people that I could possibly get a hold of that were officially involved in this Stargate project, right? Which again is a real government funded special access program to study psychics, remote viewers, and ESP abilities to collect intelligence data. So I started interviewing all the people that I could. The first person I interviewed was Angela Ford. The second one was Lynn Buchanan. The third was Dr. David Morehouse. And then the fourth was Dale Graff. And I'm starting to put all the pieces to the puzzle together here. You know, I'm talking to Lynn Buchanan, and he was approached by government officials to see if he could psychically kill somebody, right? And obviously he refused to do that, but that just opened the door to me thinking, okay, well, this whole program was an experiment to push to see how far these abilities can go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you can separate your consciousness and you can take it out and you can see anything that's happening in the world, no matter your location or the target that you're viewing's location, then what else can you do, right? Can you influence somebody psychically? Can you plant thoughts, ideas, and beliefs into someone's mind psychically, right? And then if you can do that, can you control them? Can you make them do something? Can you make them murder someone? Can you make them assassinate someone? Can you make them have a heart attack? Can you raise their blood pressure to such a high level that causes a heart attack? Right? And this is where the mixture of the secret space program and real life is getting convoluted, right?
Mm-hmm.
And is getting the waters are getting super muddied in there, because there are real programs that are earthly based things that the government has been doing for a really long time. But the secret space program assets and the super soldiers have taken that and molded it and turned it into something different than what it actually is. They've turned it into a crazy space opera story about aliens in space mixed in with very little truth, right? So it's a cover up to cover up the very real things that are going on the planet, so that the government doesn't ever have to take responsibility for any of the things that they've done. I mean, when you look at, Kathy O'Brien's story, I think that you had her on your show recently. I've had her on twice now.
Yeah, last week.
And her story is very real. So what happens if everyone that's had a real world experience, a real 3D world experience, that they've been victimized by a government organization or a three-letter agency, they've actually been a part of a real MK Ultra program, or that they've been involved in one of these psychic programs like the Stargate project, and there's other rumors that the Navy had their own psychic program and that the Air Force had their program, but we don't know. There's none of that stuff's verifiable because none of it's ever been released or declassified. It's just theories and speculation. But what if all of the people that had real world experiences within these programs started coming forward, right? What if they all just came forward at one time and was like, hey, we know what you were doing to us, right? That creates a huge problem on their hands, right? So they have to flip it, they have to twist it, they have to spin it in a direction that makes it to where they don't have to take responsibility for anything that they've done. So they make it about a fairy tale. They turn it into something that it's not. They make it this exaggerated, crazy story that brushes over all of the real physical things that's been happening on the planet for a really long time in order to cover up their tracks. So back to the reason why the CIA supposedly shut down the project in 1995. I think that which nothing just happens for one reason. You know this, everyone listening knows this. You just can't blanket one thing with one explanation, right? There's multiple layers to everything, and there's multiple reasons for one singular thing that happens. It's not just ever one thing. But my theory is that the project evolved and they found out really what they wanted to do with the project. And they were done with the intelligence data collection portion of it. And they figured out something different to do with it. And that comes into remote controlling, remote influencing, planting thoughts in people's heads. And they had to take the program and put it into something that's even more top secret than a special access program, like a deep black budget program. And they couldn't carry over the people that were in the Stargate project into this new program. Now, I do believe one or two of them did make the transition and are still currently working in that psychic assassin, psychic remote control, psychic influence program that one of the three-letter agencies or the military is currently involved with now. See, all this stuff, it evolves and it always snowballs into something else. And whenever they release the information of what they were doing previously, they've already transitioned it into something completely different. Right? And that's what I think that's happening. And if you look out in the world today, you'll see evidence of that. Right? Mm-hmm. You'll see mass murders. Right? I'm not going to say, exactly what that is because of, censorship on the platform and stuff, but you'll see mass murders, right? You'll see assassinations, and is that just of somebody's own doing, or are they being influenced to do that? Mm-hmm. And I think that evolved, and that's where it gets really dangerous because the people that know about this program, this psychic assassin program, which psychic assassin, it would be the lazy way to do it, right? You just wouldn't want to outright kill somebody with your mind, right? That's lazy. That doesn't get enough uproar, right? Mm-hmm. That doesn't get people all angry and mad and politically distress people and divide people. What you would want to do, which is I think exactly what they've been doing, is you would want to influence somebody else to do the murder or assassination for you. Mm-hmm. Instead of just outright killing your target, you would want to control, influence somebody else to do it. And that's where, that I think that I'm really onto it. I'm spot on with that. And people don't want to talk about it because it's real and it's really happening. And the people that know about it don't talk about it. Right. So, but then I believe that whole thing evolved once more. Right. It changed into something different after the psychic remote viewing, remote influencing, remote controlling people and planting thoughts into people's heads. It changed again. And this time it changed into a technology. Mm-hmm. They completely cut human involvement out of it to the point that they don't need to use psychics and remote viewers and people with ESP abilities to influence someone to do something. They created a technology out of it. And that technology influences people to do the things that they were having the psychics influence people to do. But before I keep going on, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I just want to know if you want to give the viewers some examples of the technologies that we know are real. Some of them are patented and you can look them up, and some of them maybe not. But can you elaborate a little bit on what some of those technologies that might be used today would look like?
Well, the one that's that's really verifiable is V2K. V2K, there's patents on V2K and it is in use. It's a voice to skull technology.
Mm-hmm.
It's ran, not exactly sure who it is ran by. I would have to look it up again, but it's one of the 3-letter organizations or the military. They're always involved in all of it. So it's basically a technology that can infiltrate into your mind, supplant thoughts, ideas, beliefs, essentially making you believe or influence you to do whatever it is that you want to do. It's exactly like MK Ultra, right? They all of these has been experimentations, right? They're like, okay, well, if we can figure out how to do this on an individual level, how do we figure out how to do this on a mass scale, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the easiest way to do that on a mass scale is to create a technology, to create a frequency device to be able to do this without any human involvement. Because when you have human involvement, you have people talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
You have whistleblowers. You have people that are coming out and saying stuff about it. But when you've completely cut them out of the picture and you've developed it into a technology that's a patentable technology, there's no one talking about it, right? Because it's just an everyday part of people's reality.
Right.
So they can literally hit you with a frequency, implant certain thoughts, ideas, beliefs into your head, and they can do that on a mass scale. We've seen how that's worked during 2020. That's exactly how it all went down. Right.
I was gonna
If that's not evidence for some kind of V2K, voice to skull, mass frequency, mind control, then I don't know what is. The proof is right there. That's really all that you need to see that these kinds of devices are very real when they can do that to the entire world at the exact same time and have everybody believe in it.
Yep. You sure see that here in Canada, Ryder. Oh my goodness. It was like everybody first they became terrified and then they became somehow subdued into just sheep like compliance without questioning anything. It's almost like a bit of a trance state. And another thing I wanted to mention is what I have personally noticed in the last, I would say 2 years, especially, is I'll be thinking about something and an ad will pop up on my phone. I think that our technologies, as much as I enjoy them, I think there's a whole hidden agenda there that is also about mind control and just taking over the social reality. I don't know. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, here's the thing. It comes from, they don't have to do any of this stuff on an individual level anymore. They don't have to take people to a military base and MK Ultra and mind fracture them anymore. That's done. They don't do that anymore because they don't have to. They've already figured it out. All they need is for people to be at a low enough mental state,
Mm-hmm.
which is normally through trauma and the use of drugs or alcohol or heavy drugs, right? Then they just beam the frequency.
Mm-hmm.
They just hit you with the frequency. And they'll
Mm-hmm.
have you believing that you fought aliens in space for 20 years and that you came back and your age regressed and you fought all of them with technology and all that stuff, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
very few people that are still living today that was actually a part of a legit government sanctioned MK Ultra program at a military base. Very few. Right. So all of the MK Ultra that these people say that they're experiencing is coming from V2K, and it's coming from trauma within their own life and the drugs and alcohol and the things that they're using to separate their consciousness. And they're just being hit with the frequencies to make them believe whatever it is that they want to believe, or they're having some sort of dream and they were listening to somebody's show, or they're listening to someone's podcast that are talking about the secret space program and being super soldiers and being on other planets and living on, Mars for however amount of time. And then they go to sleep and they're high or they're drunk and they have a dream about what they just listened to. And then they wake up and they think that they had that experience. They think that they legitimately lived that experience. And then they wake up and then they're like, they get on all the chats and the comments and it's like, oh yeah, I was a part of this program too. I seen you there. I remember seeing you there. When it was just your subconscious mind mixed with drugs and trauma, made it up. And you've
Ryder,
taken
what? Sorry,
that
go ahead.
made up dream as being real and a physical experience.
It's quite likely. I was going to ask you, or too, what your opinion is. I noticed that the different, let's just call them experiencers, who believe in the secret space program and all of that, all of their stories seem to be hinged on each other. It's almost like the same story, but with deviations. And it also seems to funnel back, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to also funnel back to Zachariah Stitchin and the information he put out seems to be another one of those building blocks. And it's all basically the same story, but with different amounts of deviation and embellishment. But it all seems to be hinged on one narrative. What are your thoughts about that?
Many of us have now discovered that the world is not what we thought it was, and global events have left many feeling unsettled and even isolated. Karen Holton offers vital services that may be just what you need as she supports your journey into the weird and wonderful. Karen offers awakening support and ascension consultation to support individuals on their journey. For more details, check out her various vital services. Once you find your way through this process, there are many blessings on the other side. Visit Karen's website, KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com, to get started today.
Absolutely. It's been a snowball effect. Almost every topic in this community that I could probably think of, and it goes even as far back as, Zachariah Sitchin too, is that one idea and one thought will be put out, and then there'll be 50 other people that will come in and create their own lore and their own thoughts and their own ideas that have absolutely no backing, no physical evidence, nothing backing it other than what they're saying to build on top of it. Right? As far as I know, the whole secret space program kind of started with, I can't remember the gentleman's name right now, but it was in like 2002 when there was a gentleman that was doing the circuit that was talking about space missions to Mars and the moon, and that we've been on Mars for a really long time. Like human beings have been on Mars for a while, which then reverts back to the Apollo missions, and the original statements for the Apollo missions were not only just to go to the moon in 1969, it was actually to go to any other planet that they could possibly get to in our solar system or neighboring planets, to build military bases and set up military equipment on these other planets.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then what happened was someone took that possibly factual information from these people that were coming out about that, maybe we are on Mars. Maybe we have made it to Mars. Maybe we do have humans living on Mars and we've been there for a while. Right. And then that started popping up all of these exaggerated stories. And I think that is a cover from three-letter organizations and the military, again, to cover up real factual things that could possibly be going on in space, right? Like the militarization of space. Just like Space Force, Trump announcing Space Force in, I think maybe it was 2018, 2019. I'm not sure exactly when he announced that, but that was already a thing. Space Force was already a thing. It just went under a different title. It was a different name. It was a code name for Space Force. And then whenever they made that public, it became, they changed the name to Space Force to make it another branch of the military. But they'd already been doing it for decades. They'd already had people in space for decades now, right? So that's it's confusion and muddying the waters. They're mixing exaggerated stories with some real factual information. And then it snowballed into this whole 20 and back thing. There's people talking that Randy Kramer started the 20 and back. He's one of the first people that mentioned it. But as far as I can tell, that's not true, because I've went back and I've watched some of his first interview. His first interview was with Dr. Michael Salla in August, I believe, of 2014, which makes it 2 years before Corey Goode was public. Corey Goode was public in 2012. He was doing interviews online in 2012. So it's just all snowballed. And then people talking about, real factual secret space program stuff, like I have nothing against, William Tompkins or, Bob Dean or any of those first people that were kind of talking about the secret space program, because none of them ever claimed to be a part of any 20 and back program. Never talked about it. They never mentioned it. They were talking about what they knew of a real factual secret space program that was going on. And then all of these other people took that information and created their own stories based on that information. And then it turned into this whole exaggerated, space aliens, 20 and back programs, dark fleet, blue avian, all this stuff, when none of it's real, none of it's true. And Corey Goode just came, all those depositions just came out of Corey Goode, and in court under oath, talking to the defense attorney of what is his case. He's suing those people. It's his case. He's not being sued, right? He's the one that started those cases. And he said in those depositions that he made it all up. He said that he created and made up the 20 and back, SSP, the Blue Avians, Dark Fleet, and that it's all a part of his intellectual property, right? So, I mean, if that's not, proof right there, then I don't know what is. And people can say that they didn't copy Corey's story, but I can tell you right now, I have never listened to one thing with Corey Good in it, ever. Never listened to one interview, never listened to Cosmic Disclosure, nothing. I couldn't do it. I tried a couple of times. Some people sent me some of his interviews back a couple of years ago. I couldn't even get through the first 5 minutes of it. I had to turn it off, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I know his story almost verbatim. And how is that possible when I've never watched any of his stuff? That's from other people taking the things that he has said in this court deposition that he has created and turned it into their own and extrapolated upon his story. So if people say that, oh, well, I never believed Corey Good from the beginning. I always knew that he was lying. I was always calling him. No, you weren't. Everything that you talk about is the exact same things that he's talking about. And how do I know his story without even listening to his story? Because you're telling the exact same story. You're saying the exact same thing.
I got a question for you, Ryder. I just want to ask before I forget. Pardon me for interrupting. I agree with you 100%. What I think is interesting is people, they so believe in his stories and in the other people that have basically built upon his stories, that even now that Corey Good's come out and basically come clean about it all, people are still sticking to their stories, I had a question and I forgot what it is, so I'm going to have to wait. So it just amazes me what a huge movement. And then what this has done is taken, in my opinion, taken away from people who have had unexplained experiences. And there seems to be a divide between the 3D, nuts and bolts believers, and then the ones that are more spiritual, that believe that it's from a spiritual source, that they're, that we're channeling the information. And I just wondered how that all fits in, and also where does David Wilcock fit into all of this? I don't have anything personally against him. I just find him extremely annoying to watch, so I don't. Just my own opinion.
Well, I'm going to answer your first question first about the spiritual and the astral aspects to this, because that's really important. And that's one of the things that he comments on in this deposition, right? Because the defense attorney asked him, he was like, have you ever been to space? And Corey says, in my physical body? And the defense attorney says, yeah. And he says, no, I don't believe so. Right? But then he says, astrally. Yes, but here's the problem with that, Karen, is that if your experiences are astral or they're non-corporeal experiences, or or they're channeled experiences, and that's another thing that he brought up in the deposition too, is that he was never meeting with the blue, well, Ashar. Ashar is like this inner earth being that he says that he meets up with all the time. And he says that it was a part of his meditation process and it was basically channeled, right? Which, again, I have absolutely no problem with people channeling or people having astral experiences or non-physical experiences or dream state experiences. The problem that I have is with people that has been trying to pass off those experiences as physical 3D reality experiences, right? And that's exactly what Corey Goode did. Corey frauded the public to make people believe that all of his experiences were all physical 3D real experiences when they weren't, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought he was saying as well. I haven't watched his full deposition, but I just want to take a minute to invite the viewers to go to your Rockfin channel. We'll talk about that near the end. And check out those interviews you did with, I'm sorry, his name slipped my mind, except you call him the Ruiner.
Oh, Shane the Ruiner.
Yes. Those are really interesting. What I love about it is you actually show clips from the deposition where you are proving what you're saying through actual clips of Corey Goode, under oath, I'm assuming, giving his experience. So yeah, if you want to get more in depth into this, do check out Ryder's Rockfin channel anyway for some amazing content. But yeah, that was so good that you included those clips so that we could actually see what he was actually saying, because boy, nowadays truth is in short supply all around. Anyway, continue please, Ryder.
Thank you for that, Karen. I appreciate your plug there. So that's the thing, is I don't have a problem with people in their being an experiencer or having contact with ETs or any of that. But the problem is that people are claiming that they're physical experiences when they aren't, right? That's the distinction that needs to be made, right? Like he frauded the public and made everyone believe for 8 years that his entire story, everything that he's been talking about, were 100% real 3D experiences, right? This wouldn't be happening right now. He wouldn't even be in this situation right now if he would have came out in the very beginning and said, hey, these are astral experiences. These are experiences that are happening in a different reality, a different level of reality, maybe even possibly a different dimension. I'm channeling some of this stuff. There wouldn't be any issue. Zero issue. I would have zero issue, right? Because people have that information from the very beginning, and they can adjust their mind and their thoughts and their ideas and their beliefs around that previous information. But whenever you're telling people that these experiences are physical and that you physically went to space for 20 years, you're physically age regressed back to the very point that you were taken, you're physically meeting with these inner earth ET beings, and they're giving you all this information, you're having all of these briefings from high level up ET contacts and the Federation of Planets and this Blue Avian Federation, and you're passing all that stuff off as physical experiences when they aren't, then you're a fraud. You're frauding people, right? But the difference is, from you and Chris and other people, all that stuff is up front, right? You basically say in all of your experiences that it's an astral experience, it's a dream state experience, right? I'm pretty sure that's what you said in our very first interview. You said this is a dream state astral experience that I went and I lived with these beings for a period of time and then I came back, right? That's perfectly fine. I am 100% okay with that. That is okay in my book, right? But not telling people that it's something that it's not. That's where the problem comes.
And I think most of us that have these experiences, we don't even have an explanation. We go to bed at night, we wake up in the morning, and we had all these adventures. And I like, even me, I don't have a clear explanation for my experiences. I could be communicating in a dream state. I could be just being affected maybe by one of those technologies. I don't know. I mean, I can't say it's not true or it is true. There's so many ways of looking at it. Some people, my brother actually tells me that I might be remembering the future, which I thought was an interesting concept in itself. But those of us who are honest don't say, oh, a spaceship picked us up, or we went through a jump room, and make it sound real. And I think that the big problem with Corey's story up to this point is it's going to hurt people, who are true believers. I think it's going to hurt them by feeding them false information, false hope. I got to say, that whole narrative and the people who have built upon it, they all basically say, oh, you don't have to worry about anything, go back to sleep. The ETs are taking care of everything, and I kind of went, whoa, no, I don't think that's how it works. Anyway, I'm off on another tangent. You were going to talk about how David Wilcock is sort of all tied into this. And also maybe you could even talk a bit about what their motivation is, what's behind all this, which is probably money, right?
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. He states in that deposition that this community is $1 billion industry, and that he has made close to $1 million off of one course. And now he's only making $60,000 off of one course. That's what he's mad about. That's what he's upset about, is because he's only making $60,000 instead of almost $1 million. That's what it all really comes back to, Karen. And what's kind of really gotten me, upset about the community, because I really thought that this community was a place for people to come to figure out things about reality and figure out the truth. But then when you start digging deeper into it, you realize that it's not about that at all. It's about making money. They don't care about the truth. You've seen how many people jumped on the Corey Good bandwagon to ride his coat trails because he was making millions of dollars.
Yep.
Everyone propped him up. You can't say that they didn't, because they did. All of the big names in the community.
Yep.
Propped him up.
Absolutely.
And gave him a platform. Now, there were a few detractors, of course, like there is with anybody, but he's suing those detractors.
I was going to say, that makes no sense to me, how he is suing people who are saying that he made up his story, but he is saying in his deposition that he made up the story. To me, that makes no sense, but I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it was about copywriting or
trademarks. Yeah, this lawsuit, I don't believe, was about defamation. I don't think that's what this one was about. That's what the RICO case is about, which involves Gaia and a few other individuals. That one's about defamation. Defamation. I'm not saying that right. Defamation? I just said defamation. Right. Yeah, it's because Corey Good shits himself all the time. He's defecating himself. No, defamation. Anyway, whatever. But this case is about people using his IP, using the things that he created, because he's claiming that everybody that came out after him has been using all of his information, which to a degree, when you kind of look back at it, they kind of have. They kind of have.
But isn't he using other people's information to build his story? He's just another brick in the wall.
To a degree, but not nearly as exaggerated as those people were doing. It was like what I was talking about in the beginning, how in 2002, there were some people that were coming out saying that we had people on Mars. Now, if you want to say that Corey took that information and molded his story around it, sure. But the exaggerated version, I believe he might have taken some of the titles and some of the things that people were talking about, but not the actual story that he created. I actually think that he has a good case for getting the trademarks. That might be the only thing that he might actually win out of this whole case, is getting the trademarks for 20 and Back, Dark Fleet, SSP, and Blue Avians, and whatever else he is claiming that's a part of his IP. He might actually get that, but it's very difficult to actually trademark a phrase. It's normally trademarks are for like books and works of art, and titles for some people have trademarked their YouTube channel, the title of their YouTube channel, so no one else can use it. That's really what trademarks are for. It's very difficult to trademark a phrase. That would be like me trying to trademark intergalactic time traveling cowboy space Jesus that I created a meme about, right? I couldn't do that, even though I created it. I made it up. It would be very difficult for me to trademark that. I don't know. So that's really the only thing that he has out of this entire case. The rest of it's all falling apart by him saying that he made it all up, because that's what his next case, which is the RICO case, which involves Gaia, is all about. His biggest complaint is all these people coming out and saying that his story is fake, not real, and made up. That's what he's suing those people for. But he just said that it's fake, not real, and is made up. So I don't understand how he could even possibly begin to win that case. It's not even in the realm of possibility to me, because a judge will look at that and be like, well, the only evidence that you have of people trying to ruin your reputation are the exact same things that you just admitted in a court deposition earlier under oath. It's not going to fly. They're going to be like, because that's really all the people did. All that they did was make YouTube videos and groups and stuff 2-3 years ago saying that his stories were fake and made up. And that's what he's claiming that ruined his reputation, that made it to where he can't make millions of dollars off of his content anymore. And he's mad because he's not making that amount of money. It's wild.
It is. It really is. Now, do we have we have a little bit more time? I don't know how you are for time, Ryder. I don't want to keep you too long, but I did hear you talk a little bit about how you felt that perhaps Corey has created an egregore. And I don't know if I'm understanding egregore the way you meant it, so I'll just ask you. An egregore is where you put a lot of energy and create a meme or create a narration or a story, and you keep breathing life into it, and it takes on an energetic, almost like a being that's not alive, has no soul, but an energy pattern that continues it. And we see it, in a lot of, like in the banking system and in all the Rothschild stuff. And I think that's part of their success, is raising this energy, and then it starts to just replicate itself. Now, I could have it wrong. Please correct me if I don't have it the way you meant it, but I'm wondering if you could just speak a bit about the possibility.
You explained it perfectly. That's exactly what it is. That's what an egregore is somebody has put out something that isn't real, that's fake, that's made up. They've put so much energy, time, and effort into it and has gotten other people to believe in it. And then when enough people believe in that fake, made up story, it takes on a life of its own and it becomes real in those people's reality. You can see evidence of that with things outside of this community as well.
Oh, yeah. Especially in the last 2 or 3 years. Oh my goodness. And the people who believe it whole souled. And the other sort of part of that is when you don't follow the narrative, people point at you and go, witch, burn her, burn him, not literally, but they are willing to sacrifice friends, neighbors, and family rather than examine their belief system that may not even be real.
Yeah, it's the way that really everything works in our reality. And the controllers and the manipulators of our reality know this. So it's very easy for them to control a narrative and to control the population by using that technique. It's based on belief. If you believe it, it becomes real and becomes a part of your reality. And then it becomes very difficult for you to re-examine your belief systems. Because when you've held on to that for so long, it's kind of like an awakening process, right? You feel like you're dying. You feel like a part of you is dying, right? When you're discovering more things about this reality. Well, that's exactly how it carries over into any part of our reality. And this topic and the SSP people that's believed this entire narrative and has still continue to believe the narrative, they're continuing to believe the narrative and believe that these things actually exist and these things physically actually happen because they don't want to have to re-examine their entire life. And they've built their entire premise and their background and their personality around something that isn't real. So in order, and they don't want to have to go back on that. They don't want to have to re-examine those things that they've thought has been real for this entire time. And that's a really great, what's the word I'm looking for here? Not explanation, but metaphor for a lot of things that are happening in our reality right now at this very moment. You can take that example and you can apply it to almost anything where people don't want to budge on their own thoughts, ideas, and beliefs because they've believed it for so long that it's become an everyday part of the reality. And the egregores also work within religion. It works within cults. It works within government. It works within politics. It works within the elections. It works in wars. They just have to put out a thought and an idea, get enough people to believe in it, and those people believe in it, then they'll fight for it. And then when they fight for it,
we've seen this throughout history. This is not something new. We see it over and over and over again. And it seems to be that the whole construct, which is the man-made component of our reality, it's a slippery slope like a house of cards. If you start to examine one thing, it brings down another. And a lot of people just get totally freaked out and they don't want to be different. They don't want to be stigmatized. They don't want to be separate. They don't want to have to deal with all the stuff that and pressures from family and society and government and police force and on and on and on it goes. And so I think what's happening today is the Great Awakening, where people are going, this has to stop, and it has to stop here and now with me, and then people go through usually the dark night of the soul and some other stuff, because it's not easy to get yourself emancipated from these egregore systems.
Yeah, and then referring to the egregore, I believe that Corey created that egregore, right? Corey created that got a lot of other people on board. They reinforced this story. They created their own, and then that turned into other people believing these other little Corys and people that were popping up based off of his story. And then it
Mm-hmm.
just snowballed from there and created this big, huge thing that has zero common sense, zero critical thinking, has no backing, no evidence for it, and it's made up fairy tales.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, people have bought into that egregore, and that's what I've been trying to do, is to wake people up and get people on the real research side of it and digging down into the truth and going deep with it, because the surface level, these people would not be able to talk about this stuff if they had real information.
Yep,
They wouldn't.
I
It would
agree.
be, they would have NSA, DIA, CIA, all of them knocking on their door 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that some of them have been getting knocks on their door from DIA, CIA, NSA, but for a completely different reason than what people think that they are. I think it's the opposite of trying to shut them down. I think they're there
Oh,
to
yes.
encourage them to keep talking about it.
I think, yeah, because what happens is people don't know which way is up anymore. They don't know what to believe. It adds to the whole confusion, takes people's minds off of what's really going on. And, on a personal level, family level, society level. And I agree. I think misinformation, true misinformation, is extremely valuable to the construct, so that our focus is taken away from what is they don't want us to see and put on all this other stuff. And life can get really complicated because reality can become a big tangled web, and you don't know what to believe. That's not good for people's mental health, physical health, and it certainly doesn't inspire critical thinking.
It really doesn't. And I said this the other day on my show with Shane, my second part of the show, and I said that 85% of the people in the world are followers.
Yeah.
10% of people are leaders. 5% of people are observers. And when the 10% leaders figure out how to capitalize and make money off of their leadership, the 5% is always going to be there to try and ruin it for them. And that's what makes them mad and upset, because they're trying to fool, the 10% is trying to fool the 85% and capitalize and make money off of the followers.
Mm-hmm.
While the observers are stepping back, they're seeing everything that's going on and they're calling them out. But the 5% always get hit with the most bullshit. They get called, they get the most discredited, they get the most hate, they get the most character assassinated.
And
You know,
YouTube strikes.
and they get called disinformationalists
Yeah.
and misinformationalists because we're outnumbered, but we can see what's going on because we're observers, right?
Mm-hmm.
To see it for what it is, we can see the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it takes a special kind of person to go against the grain and put themselves out there publicly. And why do we do that? It's not for money. I have not made money doing what I do. It's actually cost me money. But what has happened is I feel that I'm doing something by sharing, not necessarily truth with a capital T, because sometimes that's hard to really tell, but to at least bring out different ways of thinking and being. And I'm talking on the positive side now, and basically blow the whistle on things that call bullshit on the things that we see as being bullshit. So we're kind of like map makers. We go out, we do research, we test the waters, we see what seems that it might be good, might not be good. I don't know, but we share it with other people. And at least we're doing something. We're educating people, we're learning ourselves, we're certainly improving our own way of being. And that, I think, has a positive effect on everything else. I believe we're all connected one way or another, certainly energetically. And I don't know how the story is going to really go in the future. I don't know, but I'm really quite grateful to you, Ryder, for your persistent search of truth. And you do many more shows than I do, and I know how much effort it takes just to do one show a week. It takes a lot of effort, but you know, you're providing really good quality information on a consistent basis. Now, I don't want to cut you off from talking about what we've been talking about. Please feel free to, add whatever you want and wrap it up a bit, because I want to spend a little bit of time talking about your experience with Rockfin, what motivated you to go to Rockfin, and also find out, is it censor free? How are you finding it now that you're there? That kind of thing. And also then we could talk a bit about where people can reach you.
Yes, Rockfin is a great platform. I haven't been doing too many premium content episodes on there because I've been super busy, and the end of the year has been wild and crazy, especially with all this, Corey Good deposition stuff going on. I've been trying to get out in front of that and put out that kind of content. But in the new year, I will definitely be producing more premium Rockfin episodes. So if people are interested in going over there and subscribing, it's only $10 a month. And the thing about Rockfin too is it's not just it's not a paywall just for one person's specific content, right? So it's $10 a month and you get everyone's content. Right. But I also put my regular shows that I post on YouTube on there as well. So those ones are free. All you have to do is set up a free Rockfin account. And then if you see some kind of premium video or someone else's premium video that's only available on Rockfin, then you can, subscribe and pay $10 a month and get all of that content as well. There's just that confusion there. I've had it a few times with posting clips from premium episodes on Rockfin. It's not just a $10 a month for my content, right? And there's so many other good creators over there on Rockfin. Basically, all the people that had a YouTube channel that no longer have a YouTube channel is on Rockfin, right? So all those people that you used to love and listen to, like Tinfoil Hat with Sam Tripoli, Eddie Bravo, Jay Dyer's got one on there. Rex Bear, League Project, he's got one over there. There's just so many Beyond Classifieds over there. Forbidden Knowledge News. It's a huge platform and it's growing by the day. So and it is 100% uncensored. Like you can basically talk about whatever you want. And I think as long as it's not like hate stuff, as long as you're not,
of course,
that you're gonna kill somebody. Discriminating against a group of people or a race of people, you're fine. But as far as what you would get censored for on YouTube, in this community, you're not going to get censored for over there. So yeah, it's a wonderful platform, and I highly encourage people to go over there and sign up. If they're interested in the premium content, it's just $10 a month, which is less than what Netflix is right now. And you can watch.
It's almost half. I mean, if you want to get good quality, HD and share with one other person, it's now, I don't know, $18.99 in Canada.
Yeah,
a month.
Yeah, and you could watch Rockfin all day, every day for months and never run out of content. There's so much content from people on there, so I highly recommend checking that out. And if you don't want to pay the $10. Just go in there and create a free account. You can still see people's contents. People still release free content on there that you can watch, and it's good as like a backup because we never know what's going to happen with these other platforms. But you can also find me on YouTube at Raised by Giants and all of the different podcast platforms, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon Music, any of those places that you listen to podcasts on. You can also find the show. And on Instagram at Raised by Giants Pod, I post all of the my episodes and clips from the shows that I do on there. And yeah, that's basically where you can find me. I'm done with Facebook. I'm over Facebook, so I'm just using it as a messenger now.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you, Karen. Appreciate your time here this evening. Really enjoyed it, and appreciate you a lot.
Oh, my pleasure, Ryder, and I appreciate you very much too. And yeah, it's very, very interesting to see how things have developed over the last couple of years. And but I just really, really appreciate your shows, and there's never any bullshit. It's always right on point. And I just want to congratulate you on a job really, really well done, and encourage all the viewers to go and check out Ryder Lee on Rockfin. Of course, he's still on YouTube. There'll be links below, but do check him out on Rockfin. Get used to Rockfin. I think it is the wave of the future. So I want to thank you again, Ryder. I want to thank all the viewers for coming on the Quantum Guide Show. Without you, I wouldn't even have a show. I appreciate you all very, very much. And thank you for liking, sharing, and of course, subscribing as well. We'll see you next week on the Quantum Guide Show. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube, Odyssey, and Telegram channels. Like this video and share it with your friends. You can also find the Quantum Guide Show and my other podcast called Aliens and Astrology on the Forbidden Knowledge News Network. That's www.forbiddenknowledge.news. And while you're at it, check out my website, www.KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com, where you will find some amazing products and services and an abundance of free resources to help you with your journey. All of the links are in the description below. And in the meantime, until we see you next week, keep up the good work.
Puts all my inner strife to rest, for time gives birth to hurriedness. It all makes sense, well, more or less, and the sages put me to their test. With heart and soul I do my best to find the answers to my quest. I wonder and I must confess, I don't know where it comes from, but I know it's okay. If this is all an illusion, then I'm willing to play. It's okay. It's okay.